I am just walking into my new gig, which is at the Saudi Broadcasting Authority, radio host. So here we are, and I've got episode 2 of the expat experience. So I'm very excited to show you who I have, what we're going to be talking about, and there's going to be some fire. And this is where the magic happens with our sound engineer here. And that is our spot. Very excited for today.
It's very intimate, huh? Just the two of you.
I know. So before we go live, I'm going to introduce Luke to you directly, intimately, before it comes on the radio. So Luke, do you want to say hi?
What's up, everybody? Thank you for having me. Nice to meet all of you. I'll give you the rest of myself in a few moments.
The raw, authentic, unedited, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly of his experience here in Saudi Arabia. Welcome back to The Ride Home with myself, Coach Pete. As I said before the break, we have a very exciting guest here today. He was a caller from last week, and this just shows if you call in and if you want to be featured and share your story or just, you know, have lots to talk about, then this is the show for you. We are here for you, the people. Without further ado, we have a guest by the name of Luke. I am awful at introductions, Luke. So, who are you? What do you do? And tell me a bit more about you.
Sure, Pete. First of all, I just want to thank you for having me, Pete, and Saudi Arabia. I'm honored and blessed to be here. My name is Luke Barry, to be exact. I am a culinary director for a large group based in Jeddah named Leilati Group. It's a family-run business, and this is my main reason for coming to this beautiful kingdom. I'll start off that introduction. I'll go over to Pete and we can get this conversation flowing.
For sure. There's so many directions we can take it. The first thing to cover really is, you know, how we met. And that was quite an interesting experience considering, I think you pretty much had just got here at that time.
Yes.
So that was the F1, the first Formula One in Jeddah. So, that's a big one to drop you into.
Yeah, well, I think the first formal introduction was Pete. I saw Pete's on YouTube. You know, before coming to Saudi Arabia, I tried to do as much homework as I could to see what the country's about. And I came across YouTube videos of Pete and his other half. And they were very, very helpful in terms of creating this beautiful vision for the country, and it really enticed me and my wife and my 3 kids to come over. You know, it made the decision pretty easy. I didn't want to be cliche and do the usual checkups. You know, I'm an open book. I'm pretty well traveled, and I'm all about, you know, for me I'm all about values. I personally, you know, you can put 10 job offers in front of me. I go for the one where the values are in line. Hence me joining Leilati. This was my introduction from Pete, was informal via YouTube. We were at the time when I arrived, I literally landed the day before the first Formula One race in Jeddah. And I saw Pete in the distance and his girlfriend and
munching down the food.
You guys were going through the sushi like no tomorrow. And I approached Pete and his girlfriend, and I said, listen, I'm Luke, and I just want to let you guys know that I landed a couple of days ago, and you guys were a huge help with the encouragement for me to come to this country. And that's where it all kicked off.
Oh, that is so nice, because I think we then had a conversation just around, you know, you're here. I think you came over first before your family, right?
Yes.
And so you were literally in at the deep end, in a way by yourself, obviously supported by the company, but you had to find your feet in a country that you've never lived in before. Ever in the Middle East?
No.
So how was that experience? How was that transition coming into totally different surrounding? Because I think you're from South Africa. You have sort of lived elsewhere.
Yes.
Lived Hong
We've
Kong.
lived in China, mainland, and we lived in Hong Kong for 6 years.
So how was the transition? Because you've done the up sticks, moved to a different country, and again. Like, how was the transition this time to Saudi?
To be completely honest with you, the transition was a lot more difficult than previous transitions due to the fact that I do have 3 kids, and just before our move, my wife had given birth to our 3rd child. So I sort of, you know, I wanted to grab this opportunity by its horns, and I sort of packed my bags with my wife's approval, of course. and I left as soon as our son was born. So my wife was sort of on her own in Hong Kong for a month. So luckily, the transition for her and the kids to come over only took a month. So it wasn't too long. It allowed me to sort of find the footing, set up the home here, and make sure they arrived to a nice, comfortable environment. So
The man cave was set up as well.
the man
right?
cave.
That was the first thing. That was the only thing that was
The
set
man
up.
cave is not set up, Pete. I'll be honest with
Still,
you. It's going to get there. It's going to get there.
Okay. So, what was, I guess, more challenging coming here versus previous?
I found nothing too challenging, to be honest, or challenging at all. Leilati group welcomed me with the warmest of open arms. They made the transition extremely easy. Very family first environment. Arrive there and immediately you just feel like you're getting a warm hug, and they set you up. They make sure you have what you need, as well as the team that works with Leilati are all extremely supportive.
We have a cooler already.
Fantastic. I've established a direct answer that I stand by. I believe in. It will never change. It is an absolute honor to be in this country and help lay this new foundation. It's an honor as an expat to be helped to build this foundation of this country, and the excitement that's going on. This is the atmosphere. There's nothing like it. I've traveled recently. There's nothing like the atmosphere in Saudi Arabia. And my quick answer to you is to help lay this foundation or be part of this laying this new foundation for the country as it opens up is an absolute honor. You would be quite silly to surpass that opportunity. The country's ambitious. The people are ambitious. I'm ambitious. I just see the like-mindedness everywhere. I'm a very ambitious person. I need to be around ambitious people. It's easy to be around ambitious people, but it's not very easy to be around an ambitious country or kingdom.
Okay, so God, they've jumped the gun with the questions. I don't need to be here. The coolers can call in. They can interview yourself. But I think, that's one of the things. You're talking about values, and you obviously probably at the moment have been living your life for a certain set of values, and you're essentially judging companies or offers on, not just the salary, which I think a lot of people make the mistake of.
Salary comes last.
So what was it that attracted you to Saudi and then to the company? Was it in that order? Was it the company first and then Saudi, or
company first?
Yeah,
company first. I received the first phone call. I'm not going to mention names, but I received the first phone call. First of all, it's a family-run company. Family that run a company, they're going to put their whole heart into the operation. And when I join a company, I'm going to treat it as if it is my company. I'm going to put my whole heart into it. I could feel just pure love when I had an interview via phone when I was on the other side of the world. And I could just hear in each individual's voice the passion and the love that they have for their company. And I just felt a lot of similarities between themselves and myself. So it was a very easy decision for me.
Okay.
It was a very, very easy decision.
And then the decision for company was made. What then, or how did you navigate the Saudi Arabia fact? Obviously, you said you kind of found bits on YouTube, but what were your preconceptions before even, like, you see Saudi Arabia on the job offer? What goes through your head?
Initially, it was a bit of a shock. I wasn't looking in this direction at all. But for me, if I got my wife next to me, my kids is on the other side, no matter where I am in the world, we can make it a home. As long as we're together, it can be at home. So it doesn't really matter where I am. It's more about where I work. A very big pro, besides the company that I work for, is that all the excitement that's happening in this country right now. We are so busy. Thank goodness. The opportunities are endless for everyone in the country, and I just think that I'm just super. I went home to South Africa on holiday about just sort of 2 months ago. People ask me how you are. And for the I'm generally a very happy person, but I could very honestly answer them and say, I'm just I'm just really happy. I'm content. I'm very happy. I feel I love my job. I love the country. I just feel like everything's moving in the right direction.
Amazing. Yeah, I can totally relate, because I go back home as well, and when I land back in Saudi, I'm like, I'm home.
Yes, no, that's true.
And it is a relief, because you're feeling like you are growing as an individual here, but then you're also adding value and growth to whoever it is you're working with, whether that is people, companies, or customers, or whatever it might be. It is such a pleasure and such a opportunity that there's nowhere really like it in the world.
No, I can honestly say I don't think there is.
So, again, back to you seeing Saudi Arabia on the paper, what did you sort of misconceptions or assumptions? Because for me, like, you know, seeing it as with a lot of other people, you kind of are at the mercy of what the news have showed you. And, you know, Western media being what it is, you know, often paints a picture in a certain way. And, you know, I remember my dad, as soon as I told him, for example, he's like, why the expletive, do you want to go there?
Yes,
Because
yes.
he, you know, he's very kind of narrow-minded and sort of older generation back in the UK. But it's sort of you're not exposed to what life is really like here. You just get the negative PR news
No,
stories.
that's true. That's true. I'd say the initial first reaction from most people was like, "Wow, that's that's I would not have imagined that
Mm.
for you." My wife, personally, she had the first thing she googled is to what are the rules for the woman?
Yeah.
I've got two daughters. That came to her mind. It popped into mind first thing. I said, "Do your research, but don't do too much research. Let's
Yes.
rather talk to people that have experienced it. Let's rather do proper homework instead of Google questioning. But there definitely were thoughts. We did not allow ourselves to think too much, so we sort of stopped ourselves.
Mm.
And I said, thank goodness I'm going first. I
Yes.
can let you know what it's about. I'm not gonna bring you somewhere where you're gonna feel
Mm.
uncomfortable. And my wife absolutely loves it. Yeah,
Really.
loves it.
Okay. Which, well, happy wife, happy life, right?
True, true. It's very true.
How has it been so far?
I'm enjoying it, Pete. I was a little bit nervous on the drive here, well, during the drive here, but you've eased me in quite nicely. So, thank you.
In the break, we just got on to the topic. So obviously, you know, Luke's responsible for making the most tasty, good-looking food out there. And so I have a client who is your boss.
Correct.
I have a
Correct.
client who's paying me to get fit, lose some weight. And so the problem is, and I wanted to put this out there to the world, or Saudi Arabia who's listening, what do we think about Luke giving my client super tasty food, super tasty desserts, and derailing his progress on a weekly basis? What's
I
what
think
have
I'm
you got?
contributing towards Luigi's bicep growth, to be honest.
Touche, touche. No, that's true. That's true because he's getting on. But anyway, enough about Luigi if he is listening. So before the break, we were starting to talk about your family. So you mentioned you are now so much more of a family man. Explain to me a bit about that.
I'm more of a family man due to the fact that I have, it's not that I have more time on my hands. It's just that I think the pace, my sort of mindset has changed a little bit. I've slowed myself down and I've sort of realigned my focus, my focal points, and my focus points. There's two. It's work and it's family. There used to be a lot of in between. Now there's not much in between.
In between, like what? Socializing.
Socializing. I love socializing. Don't get me wrong. I do make time for that from time to time, but I've sort of prioritized my life. It's work, family. These are the two most important things. Everything else, I've learned to sort of push aside the unnecessarily unimportant topics.
And why would you say that is? Is that a sort of a case of coming out to Saudi and there's less going on, or the work-life balance is better, therefore you can prioritize things better? What would you say?
I wouldn't say there's less going on. We are, as I mentioned previously, we are quite busy. Work-life balance. There's a little bit better work-life balance than what I've previously experienced. But as I mentioned, work. I'm not. That's not my. I don't want to pardon work or pardon family. I prioritize both. It's just I think the pace and me sort of prioritizing everything has allowed me to be more of a family man.
I see. So what would you say? What advice would you give to someone who's looking at coming out here with their family about sort of making the move and whether it's structuring their life or getting the most out of it? What advice would you give?
Talk to Coach Pete or myself. We'll give you a pretty direct answer.
The lowdown. But is there anything you've struggled with your family sort of moving over, or is it all been pretty seamless?
It's all been pretty seamless, to be honest with you. The only tardy process would be the visa process. I would say is having to assessments and medicals and going back. Recently my family flew back home, and it's quite a lengthy sort of paperwork process. in order to get visas. But it's at the end of the day, it's going to all be worth it, and it's got to be a little bit patient, and it will all work out in the end. But I would say the visa process is not very, very seamless at the moment.
I know I hear that a lot from people where it can take a week, it can take a couple months. It's sort of totally at the mercy of who is probably on the other end of.
I think the company that you work with also makes a huge difference. My visa was a pretty quick turnaround. You got a strong HR team that's put you in contact with the right people that can support you along the way. That also helps.
And I think this is a topic, the company you work for, because there's a lot more expats coming into the country, I think it is so crucial to have a strong HR team who is well versed in the necessary visas, with strong accommodation links or whatever it might be, just to make sure the onboarding process for an expat coming into the country is as seamless as obviously Leilati had made it for you. Because I know in my experience, we had it was essentially a mess. People being put on the wrong visas and then having to redo their whole attestations and certificates and all that kind of stuff. So I think anyone out there who's listening who is responsible for HR discipline or responsible for expats, I don't think you can really sort of understand or appreciate, unless you've been through it yourself, what it is like literally upping sticks and moving to another country. Even like down to the really, really simple stuff like mobile phone providers, like networks, what you go for, internet, like all of these basics which obviously people want and need to make their just being able to call home easy.
Absolutely. No, you're right, Pete. Thank the heavens I was not in that predicament. My move here, as soon as I arrived, was like I was a little bit taken back. I've never experienced such hospitality in my life, to be honest with you. I was just within 3 days I had everything I needed.
Really?
I was set, I was good to go. Like I said, I was at the Formula One race 1 in Jeddah the 2-3 days after I landed, and I was ready to rock and roll. I was just go. I had all the tools I needed. I lacked nothing.
I imagine there's a lot of people out there who might be envious.
I'm sure. I've heard some stories. It's like I said, values and the company you're joining, to me in Saudi Arabia, are the most important things.
And it's always companies who put people first, people over, the bottom line or profits,
yes,
ultimately always, do better, always succeed, and always keep their employees. Because those who don't necessarily do that, you'll have a high turnover, people out within a year after their contract, and then you're having to recruit more people, and it's not great.
As the country opens up and we get busier and busier, everyone's going to have to catch a little bit of a wake up call.
Yeah, I think standards need to be raised, and I think that's happening, which is great.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're testament to that. But it's the expectation versus the actual reality of coming here. People kind of expect, well, me personally, maybe this was an error, was expecting London efficiencies when you move. Once you understand to just go with the flow.
Fortunately, I'm a pretty understanding gentleman. I'm a pretty understanding guy.
I think that would have sort of saved me a few grey hairs. Your family are here, great. What's what would you say the future for you is, you and the family? Is that you're not putting a time limit on it? Because I know a lot of expats do. Is it sort of open?
No, I refuse to have any time limits. Leilati we have huge plans in our pipeline, and I want to see that through.
I'm sure.
I want to see that through.
Because you are probably such a integral part to those plans, right? Being your position that you are.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
Everyone plays a very important role. I'm not
very well said. That is very true. That is very, very true. Talk a bit more about how, or like what is under your kind of guidance at work? Like what kind of things are you doing that is, pushing the country forward, pushing the industry forward?
Sure. So essentially on paper, I'm responsible for all things culinary, from all the restaurants to the ballrooms, to the caterings, to the special projects. Everything culinary is under my roof. At the moment, I'm very focused on, unfortunately, I'm able to sort of focus on one thing right now at the moment, because I have a very, very strong team next to me. I won't say behind me, but next to me, is Riyadh season. We are activating in Riyadh season. I won't mention names just yet, but we are working with phenomenal brands, very like-minded, very quality-driven, premium brands, restaurants from different parts of the world that we are welcoming over to the kingdom. And I really look forward to everyone coming to see what we have on offer. It's going to be outrageously good.
So
Outrageous.
anyone going to Riyadh season needs to visit the restaurants there, because from what I have heard off air, they are going to be incredible. And if, Luke's responsible for it, then I'm sure they will be.
Yeah, I mean, the whole team at Leilati is putting their heart and soul into this project. It's going to be amazing. That's all I can say for now. I'll keep the rest a secret.
So when is Riyadh season?
We are opening from the season kicks off on the 3rd of November. It's a 45-day pop-up. So we're looking at around 18th, 19th of December end date.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So, well, as with most industries, tight timelines, but you're working through. And
that's one thing. Funny enough, you mentioned that, Pete. Things do get done a little bit last minute here. Eh? I've learned to hustle a little bit harder.
You need to, whatever timing plan you give, you need to add that. You need to add of a buffer to it.
No, but we're used to it. We make, at the end of the day, we want to just, obviously, quality is more important. We want to make sure we maintain the quality, but we've learned how to hustle and get the job done.
Amazing. Well, and still maintain some sort of work-life balance.
Absolutely.
Okay, so taking it away from work, what has been the most frustrating or shocking time that you've had here, an experience?
Easy answer.
Okay. The radio.
The driving.
Okay, fair.
I grind my teeth every single day. I have one favour. A couple of favours.
It's not just one occasion, it's every
it's pretty much
day.
Daily that I've got to sort of nearly slam my brake or just have a quick turn to avoid a bumper to bumper. But a small favour, you don't have to listen to me, I hope you do, is just use your indicators.
Please. Please. No, I know, it's like my Taya's next door to me in the passenger seat, and she's on drift watch. She's like, we got a drifter in this lane, and quite right, he's slowly moving over into my lane. So have you stayed clear of any bumps, accidents?
I haven't encountered anything at the moment, touch wood. I'm a pretty cautious driver. I do look 5 cars ahead of me and 5 cars behind me.
You have to. Your head is on a swivel. So
most likely it's not going to be my fault if something does happen.
Well, but that's the problem, because my, my girlfriend, as I said, she's getting her own car. So now she's borrowing mine, and she has this sort of nervousness around, but I don't want to scratch it and you'll be mad. It's like, yes, I will be mad. but if you're careful, you'll be fine. If you expect the unexpected, expect that everyone on the road is going to do the most stupid thing, then it's not surprising if
being too careful is dangerous. I've also heard you need to drive like everyone else.
Yeah, there's a balance. You are right. And I don't know how it is for you, but when I go home and I'm on a road in London, I'm probably the worst driver there now. I'm so overly cautious. I'm like, what's the speed limit? How fast am I going? Indicating this, that, everything, because here things are just a bit more lax.
It is, also where I come from, if certain things that happen on the road, someone very sort of aggressively drives to the backside of your car and sits 5 centimeters from your back bumper.
Yes.
Where I come from, the front car would sort of stop their car and
really?
Have a chat, Over here they take it, it's okay, let's carry on going. No one gets upset. I like that though.
It depends what kind of mood they catch you in. If I've got someone flashing behind me, I can be a bit of a a shit and sort of stay there and slow down even. So this guy is infuriated behind me, or some days it's just not worth it and you just move over. Because I've heard some horror stories about literally people losing friends because they have been bumped from behind.
Yeah, I've high speed. A few of those, yeah. I got my kids in the car most of the time. This is a big concern.
So is it family has to have a big family car?
Yeah, we got a reasonably sized car. We got a decent SUV. The higher I'm off the road, the safer I'm going to feel.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we'll take a short musical break. If you have any questions for Luke about anything, about his time here in Saudi, about his job, about what is it like having his family here, please call on 012 6484 691 and we'll catch you after the break. Welcome back to The Ride Home. It is myself, Coach Pete, alongside Luke, our guest for today. And we've been talking all things work, family, personal, bit of everything. Before the break, we were talking about the things that most frustrated you. And then, unsurprisingly, it was all in relation to driving. And I think a lot of people out there who are sat in their car are probably, resonating quite a lot with that. So let's turn the tables, and I want you to think about your time spent here. What have been those moments where you have just felt, oh my God, life is amazing? Or like those moments, those highlights that have just been like, I have made the best decision possible coming here.
It might sound like I keep swinging things back to work, but a large part of my, it's my first year here. November will be 1 year, but the biggest highlights were work related. We partook in some big projects that help expose the country, and we were fortunate enough to provide the hospitality for this, such as Formula One, the golf, international golf, WWE. To name a few, we've taken part in these, and these are all big first-time events happening in the country, and to be part of that has been mind-blowing.
All of these firsts are things that you get to experience yourself.
Correct.
And I can relate to an extent, having worked in the first mixed gym in the kingdom. There isn't really anywhere else in the world where stuff like this is happening, where it's at such a pivotal point.
It's the first time.
There's nowhere. Like it's funny, I was in New York and like about a month ago, and I just felt so insignificant because it's so busy, there's so much stuff going on, and you're kind of a very small fish in a very big pond, whereas here you really get the opportunity to impact other people, impact thinking, and actually make a mark, really.
Absolutely. It's just to be part of those, as I mentioned at the beginning, to be a part of, and this is where the foundation comes in, to help lay this. The country has a solid foundation, don't get me wrong, but to help this new era of foundation that's being laid currently, to be part of that is next to none.
Because are you involved in some ways? Is a lot of the stuff you're doing in relation to the 2030 vision?
Correct, absolutely. A lot of it. Apart from all of our restaurants, and our ballrooms, our caterings is our core. This will always be our core. But all these special, we call them special projects, that are part of this Vision 2030, and they are, yes, they're part of that vision.
Yeah. Because I don't think really, and I mean, I might be wrong here, but off the top of my head, not really another country has such a almost like outrageous ambition to take all sorts of industries to, many levels up, right? I'm thinking to the UK, who is just going awfully at the moment. The pound's dropping and it's just terrible there. But there isn't really anything which really galvanizes a population or a people to be working in the same way for the same goal. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yes.
You just see that, the patriotism, like on the 92nd, National Day. I don't know, did you go out?
I went out with reason. It was my daughter's fourth birthday. So we celebrated her birthday party on Sunday. So I was forced to go out. But we went out in the late morning before all the traffic started. So it was bearable.
Okay.
But at night I refused.
Really?
I hibernated.
And I guess last year you came afterwards, didn't you? So you missed it.
I missed it, yes.
So I've had a couple of occasions where I've had to travel back from work in it, and oh my God, a 10-minute journey takes 2 hours.
But I don't know if I made the right decision. Now maybe I should.
It's an experience.
I should have experienced it probably, right?
Because it's almost like people go to just be stuck in traffic. Because that was my experience of it. And you do see pretty wild things. You see people dancing on the top of their cars in the traffic jam with swords, running up and down the traffic lanes with flags.
Yeah, I think, Pete, the driving aspects of things that we discussed previously, this somewhat not very good driving from certain drivers sort of threw me off a little bit. I don't want to necessarily drive at night, but there's lots of traffic. And
yes.
It's probably going to be 10 times worse than what I've currently experienced.
I have said, I told my parents that driving here will be the death of me. So pretty grim, pretty somber, but I do try and make sure that doesn't come true. So we spoke about YouTube and how you found me through there. So I have found a lot of people coming in a similar way to you and sort of messaging me, like that has skyrocketed over the last few months. Because
I can tell you, I've had people I mentioned you, and people have told me they've seen you on YouTube.
Oh, really?
You've helped so many
Ah,
people
you're giving
make
me
a decision to come
shout-outs.
here.
Yes.
You've helped so many people.
So that has skyrocketed, and it's crazy how little information there is out there, even now, about life here. And one of the biggest questions I get, which it will be good to get your input on, is from a social point of view, how does that change? So what is your social life like here? What could it be like? Is it, next to nothing? Like, what would you tell people who are asking about what's the social scene here? How do I meet people?
I think a good starting point would be your colleagues. These are the people that can sort of show you the ropes and show you around. And then, to be honest with you, Pete, I don't have much of a social life just yet. I put my head down and just focus on work. This is the way I am. I don't particularly need a huge social life, but you do need a circle. You do need to be able to sort of socialize when you have the time. Expats living in compounds can be a very big help too. Everyone's fairly like-minded. Everyone's foreign. Everyone's not local. So everyone sort of feels magnetized and towards each other. Organically, you go towards each other. You talk. Everyone's an open book.
Yeah.
So this does definitely help. Is living in a compound.
Yeah, because I know you've said you're changing yours in terms of where you live in your compound for, it's closer in really. So in terms of convenience to shops, malls, and work, it will be less time on the roads for yourself.
Yes. I'll be cutting quite a few minutes from my trip. Yes.
But then also just from the sort of people point of view, if you can, I guess find similar people, like-minded people to you, then that is only going to increase the quality of life.
Absolutely. I think being an expat and being an experienced expat allows you to be a bit more open-minded. I wouldn't necessarily socialize with the mates I had back in the day. Personalities change as you grow. I think I'm more focused on people that are like-minded, as you said, and there needs to be similarities in terms of I want to hang out with a nice person, man. Just a good, decent person.
I think I've been in a similar boat where, because you work together, it's almost like this is your lot, this is your potential friendship group. Be friends with them. And so I, over my time here, haven't really branched out or, to be honest, made like proper friends, because first of all, my friends back home, people I grew up with and have real strong bonds with, there's only like 3 or 4 of them. You get the quality,
yes,
the best friends.
Yeah, no, I can count. I can barely count all my mates on my one hand.
Yes, exactly. So, and especially I guess with you living abroad over the years, like those relationships that mean something stay. Exactly. Those which have been built on partying or whatever, absolutely, they just fade away.
I went, like I mentioned previously, I went back home just short of 2 months ago. I could have easily contacted 50 people. Let's go have a barbecue together. Come hang out. Yes. But I contacted 3 people.
Yeah.
People that I don't rely on everyone to stay in touch, but it's also my responsibility to stay in touch, and I've stayed in touch with the people that I see part of my future.
Yes. Because I sort of always have that nagging feeling of being a terrible friend, because I don't give my friends back home a call, but I know every once a year I go back, we will literally pick up where we've left off.
Me too. No, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. So that goes back to the point here around, if you're working with a certain group of people, yes, you need to get on, but for me, just because you're with them, it doesn't mean you have to be friends.
Correct.
They can still be colleagues or acquaintances. You can do stuff, but I think that's the bit I struggled with socially until I met my partner, and then it was just us two, day, night, and doing anything and everything. And
I haven't, like I said, I haven't had the time to really connect much outside of work. I definitely will make the time, and I would love to. I think that's important, for the longevity of the stay here.
Yes.
But my wife's my best mate, my kids are my best mates, and my closest colleagues are my best mates.
Nice. And your new nanny, right?
Yes, we recently secured a lovely new nanny to help assist with the kids. It wasn't an easy process securing someone that we felt sort of aligns with us. We're looking for someone that's it's very simple. I don't need to see a CV. I want to see someone that's jolly, someone that's happy, someone that's energetic, and someone that's decent. Just good-hearted, nice person, as I mentioned previously. And we found an absolute diamond.
Amazing.
So this has changed everything for us. Yeah.
So how did you judge that criteria? For people out there who might be struggling with getting a nanny or getting sort of
For me,
help
I'm
with
a pretty
the
good judge of character. I looked her in the eyes for a little bit, and I could have picked her. I picked her up. I could tell who she is immediately.
Really?
I knew that she was good. I can just look at person in the eyes. I can tell you straight away.
How long are we talking? 2 minutes? Or?
No, that'll be a little bit awkward. As we conversate, as we
if
were
she
conversating,
blinks, she's out. Okay, nice. So you sort of, I guess that has probably done you well over the years, being able to judge people.
No, people are the most important thing for a company. It's all about having the right people. In life, personally, it's about having the right people around you. Everything unknowingly will rub off on you. So people are the most important thing.
Oh, for sure. Because everything is I've said this before, like an energy exchange. If you are constantly giving energy, time, effort out and not receiving anything in, then you're going to be running on empty very, very quickly.
Absolutely.
So I imagine, what you're doing in sort of work and family life is being able to, yes, give that energy out, but then receive that back from other people who are just as passionate as you are. It makes it all worthwhile and makes you able to stay at work crazy hours if you need to.
So thankfully that is my case. As I mentioned in the beginning, I joined Leilati based on the people, the values. I knew that there's longevity. I can hang out with these guys for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
like-minded makes it seamless.
See, it's easy. You can have your own show if you want.
I feel like we're just chatting normally. I completely forget about this.
Okay, so we are back. Literally, it's the callers that make this show.
I love it.
And I'm not just saying that because you were a caller at one point. And I think this is a message to everyone. If you want to join me in the studio and have the hot seat, I mean, it's just a normal desk chair, isn't it, that you're sat in?
It's a fairly comfortable desk chair.
So if you want to join me on a fairly comfortable desk chair in the studio, then please get in touch. Give us a call now on 012 6484 691. Where were we? I want to delve a little deeper, and being someone who is a father and a husband in a country that isn't necessarily your own at the moment, I'm sure it feels like it. What are you most worried or anxious or nervous for in the future? And while I give you a chance to think, I'll sort of maybe give you some ideas. So for me, Luke is such a happy guy. He has no fears or concerns. But for me, I think, there's lots of experts out there who can probably resonate with this, is the fact that, you are essentially under sponsorship, right? Whether by an individual or a company. And so we're on a contract, and at the end of the contract, you might, not be extended for whatever reason. Equally, you could be let go at any point. So I think for me, being somewhere that I truly love and feel like my life is here, that for me is number one, is that security and just knowing that I can be here for as long as I want. Because technically, well, I could be if all goes to plan and if all goes well, but realistically, that could be gone. And I know there's lots of stuff happening in terms of increasing job mobility and how employees can move around and not just have to leave the country when their contract is up. But it's still, I mean, it might be irrational, but it's still a fear that sometimes pops into your head and thinks that, okay, this could all be over at some point.
No, I think, as you said in the beginning, I'm a very happy guy. It wasn't an easy question to answer. I don't have many concerns. I'm not afraid of much. But now that you bring that up,
I'm sorry. I brought your world crashing down.
No, but I want to comment on that. I think it's entirely up to the employee whether or not he or she stays. I think it's up to you, up to me if I stay. If I'm not doing a good job, I'm not going to be here. If I'm trying my best, if in general, if everyone's doing their part and more, I think you're going to be okay. So I think it's entirely up to you as a person
That
whether
is
or not
very true.
that takes place or not. I think with the right employer, you're going to be in decent hands. And I think a hearty decision will be made at the end of the day by the employer if you have the right employer, if you're working for the right people. But in general, I think it's mostly up to the employee whether or not he or she is performing or not.
I think you're right, and that is something, the mindset side of things that isn't really discussed about amongst expats, really. Ultimately comes down to the individual as to how they act, how they perform, and what they do to, well, enrich the company, enrich the sort of the country that they are in.
I think, Pete, the organic, easy way is to point fingers and blame others.
I agree.
I don't think that's the right way to go about it.
I agree. And, well, I guess it's one of those things where you can look at the things which are in your control and then outside of your control. And, all of these unknowns aren't in your control. The only way you can really, be sure about how to, I guess, cement your stay here is just to do the best job that you can.
And just be better.
Yeah.
Just be better.
Yeah.
Keep telling yourself, I need to be better.
I think for me, it's easy to sometimes fall into that mindset of, oh my God, woe is me, throw myself a pity party and think, it's all going to go up in smoke at some point. And I think, being able to grow your network, constantly doing better in whatever, giving people your energy and adding value to people's lives, I think in whatever discipline or function you're in, is going to be the surefire way to kind of cement your time here and enjoy your life here.
Definitely. I think taking ownership in everything that you do is essential. I could easily, it's very easy to slip up and make a mistake, but it's, I can tell you, be honest with you, in the past, I would not acknowledge my mistakes as I do now. And now I'm very, very critical as to what I do personally, professionally, what I try to be, and I want to take ownership in everything I do, say. I've sort of learned also, and I highly recommend, is if you're in a conversation or in a meeting, sit back and observe and listen, and only, I've taught myself to only sort of talk when I'm saying something that's valid. It's very easy to say something that will sort of throw the whole conversation off or make you look a little bit poor or unprofessional. I am a reflection of myself. I'm not no one. I can't rely on anyone else to be me and make me the Luke that I want to be. I think taking ownership and just not pointing fingers and blaming, to me personally, is the way to go.
I totally agree. Because where do you think that comes from? Because obviously, your career has been as a chef. Going through the stages, junior and working your way up. In the kitchen, I imagine there is no room to hide.
I've worked for the people and the companies I've worked with. I've always selected the companies very, very carefully. As I mentioned previously, values first. Companies that have the same values as me or similarities. This is very important. Apart from everything else comes second. Salary, everything comes last, way, way last. If you're working for a company that has the same values, the same ambitions as you, if you put your head down and you graph, organically you should be rewarded. The company will grow at the same time, you will grow at the same time. So who you work for, where you work is critical. I've personally selected the companies I work for very carefully. I've worked with leaders in their own rights. I've worked with some really, really inspirational people that were not easy on me. They were brutally honest. I'm brutally honest to certain people, the people that I see with lots of potential. I'm brutally honest with them, and I expect that in return. I work with, at Le Latino, I work with people that are extremely to the point, honest. They'll tell you when things aren't right. They'll tell you when you're doing wrong. They'll tell you when you're doing well. And that's just important. And your social circle. You need to hang out with people that are going to tell you when you're out of line. My wife is an absolute... She's hard on me. She's very hard on me. My wife, you don't know this, but used to be my boss.
Okay.
We met when she was my boss.
Ooh.
So...
Is that dynamic still there?
My wife's a small little lady, man.
I've seen.
She can make a grown man cry. So I've married someone that is very driven, structured. We're not all perfect. We all fall between the lines sometimes. My wife's a very honest, direct person, and this has really rubbed off on me too. So, like I said, the people you hang out with, the people you marry, are very important. For example, you got your head chef, you got your sous chef, which is second in command, you got your chef de partie, third in command, you got a demi chef, fourth in command, and you're all sitting around a table, I expect the fourth in command to be able to give his input as to how things should get better, not sit back with his mouth quiet and let the head chef make all the decisions.
Yes.
Input is very important. If you're sitting with your core team around a table and no one's giving their input, and you're not going to grow as a group. You're not going to grow as a team. You're not going to grow.
So this like good, solid company value structure that you take when it comes to looking at companies to work for, how did that come about? Did you get burned in a previous job? Or is that something that has been ingrained into you from a young age of, values first and, stick to those because above all else, that is going to carry you through?
I think, I need to give this a little bit of thought just for a couple of seconds, but I think it's part of my upbringing. I've been brought up with I'm an only child. I've been brought up by parents that I love dearly, and I was never afraid to tell my folks that I love them in front of anyone. I would just those core values of just family is important, right? So you're with your family, you tell your dad I love you. I give my dad a kiss on the cheek in front of all my mates. I was the only person who did that, and I stand my ground, and I think that it's been instilled with me. Just being around, I think, just decent people is important. They're just just good people that think with their heart, and I think that plays a huge part. And I'm by no means perfect, but I'm trying to be as close to as I can as a person, as a professional. I have a lot of work to do. I'm nowhere near where I want to be in my life, but I'm trying my best to distinguish my focal points and really define what's important and what's not.
Amazing, because I think I've struggled with that in the past, whereby you kind of don't live into your values, or you take something on, maybe a client on, or whatever it is that definitely doesn't align with your values, and then it just causes friction, and then you end up hating what you're doing because you everything's at loggerheads.
So I think if I was a PT, I would not make much money at all. I would make sure I'm working with people that align with me.
Yes.
I'm not, like I said, it's not, to me, it's not all about the buck. I wouldn't be so very successful PT.
No, I'm sure.
I would pick and choose very carefully.
But then you grow your business that way. Whatever you do, I feel like you'll sort of make a success out of it. Okay, welcome back to the drive home. Myself, Coach Pete, here with Luke. So it has been super insightful. We have covered so many different things. So we're going to wrap the show up now. And there was a couple things just to finish on. Obviously, you being a relatively new expat here, what would be your advice to someone who was on the fence about coming here?
I would break it up into a couple of points. I would say, do not ask too many questions. Don't listen to people's remarks too much. Don't Google too much. The best thing to do is pack your bags and come over, have a look. Come here and experience it yourself, and then make your own decision.
I like that. Jump in at the deep end. Don't get bogged down by other people's opinions.
Also, watch Pete's YouTube videos. They're very helpful. That helped me.
My last question. So the first time I did this interviewing a guest, I asked him what question would he like to ask to the next guest. So his question was, what do you feel when you're walking down the street in Saudi Arabia?
I feel inspired. I feel excited. I feel alive. And I feel safe.
Boom! I don't think I can add anything to that. I can totally understand where you're coming from. I can totally relate. And man, that's it. That's the show.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pete, for having me. Thank you, Saudi Arabia. It's been an absolute honor. Thank you very much.
One last thing for the listeners.
I hope my voice wasn't too irritating. I hope it didn't put you to sleep. And just thank you for listening to me.
No, you've been amazing. And where can people find you? Where can they organise a play date?
I'm pretty active on Instagram. My tag is some, SOME _call. CALL _Duke, DUKA. Some call me Duke.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming in.
Pete.
It's been a pleasure. And we'll have to do it again, maybe after Riyadh season.
Sounds good.
If you, maybe got a few more grey hairs from that.
Couple more, yeah. Awesome.
Amazing.
That was great, man. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that was amazing having Luke on the show. So thank you, Luke, for joining. And for anyone who is watching because they are potentially coming to the kingdom to work or to live, then I hope that provided some insight to you and you could find it useful and hopefully would guide your decision to come. So definitely come. If you are watching and you want to be on the show, on the radio, given your experiences of your time in the kingdom, then please do let me know. Send me a message, comment, or just get in touch via email. So on that note, please like, share, comment. Until next time.